Hi, it's Dr. Cooper, and this is a podcast for the ENH295 Banned Books and Censorship class. Welcome to week 2. This is the week 2 weekly podcast. It's time to start reading. You see that? I got my book. I ordered mine on Amazon. It was about $8. It came within 2 days, and it's a new book. So I started reading a couple of chapters this morning and plan it out accordingly. You're going to read this book in 2 weeks. So it's about, let's see here, 263 pages. So divide it in half and say 130 pages by the end of this week, or, at least to chapter 10. Okay, so we're reading the first half of the book this week, the second half next week, and we are also continuing our discussion on just banned books in general. It's a 2 week, each discussion is worth 2. So if there are things that we want to discuss with Annie on my mind, what I'm going to do is open up another discussion just so that we will have a place that we can discuss, but there's no obligation to add to that discussion. It's hard to read and something without talking about it. So next week, we will actually do our second discussion for this module, and that will be the discussion for Annie on my mind. But just for this week, I'll open up just a mini discussion just for a place to post something if you have questions or insights or comments about it. But that will be an optional discussion. The real discussion for the book will take place um, starting next week in week 3. Okay? So we'll have week 3 and 4 to discuss Annie on my mind. All right. At the end of this week, we will have our first journal post. So you've all posted to your journal. So I know you know how to do it. Well, most of you have posted to your journal. And you're going to go in and post the journal number 1, which will be a journal on Annie on my mind. And I want for you to think of these as mini papers. They're going to be 300 words or more, no less than 300 words. And I want for you to do an analysis of the text that you are reading. What I mean by that is when we analyze something, we break down the parts to sort of discover what's going on in the text. We can analyze the characters, we can analyze the plot, the setting, we could do a characterization. I said that already. But basically, you're going to read a handout that I've provided for you that is a list of rhetorical terms. I've also provided a lesson, a video in the Week 2 folder that talks about analyzing literature and the rhetorical terms. So if you're familiar with some of them, then it'll make it easier. But if you're not familiar, then it's your job as part of this class to learn about these literary devices and literary and rhetorical terms that we will be talking about. Okay, so more on that later, but make sure that you read the week 2 weekly folder page to see all of the other things that you have to do for this week. Now, one of the things I want to point out before we get started is ENH 295 is a 200 level course. And although there are no prerequisites for this course, it is expected that you have had at least English 101. And the reason why it's a good idea to have English 101 is that writing skills are very important in this course. Everything we do is reading, writing, thinking, discussing. And if you're not writing well, it's going to be difficult for you to get a good grade. Now, that doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means that you have to take your work into the writing center to maybe get help with it. You might want to run it by some of your classmates or friends that you have, spouse, whoever you think could help you with your writing. But it's not an excuse to turn in unacceptable content to be graded. If it's not written well, spelling, grammar, punctuation, if you're not demonstrating knowledge of literary terms, the rhetorical devices, and so forth, it's not going to bode well for you. But you can do it. There is help available. And you want to pay close attention to the example that I will provide for you later in the week on your first journal post. So although it is a journal, a lot of people think, oh, it's just a journal. Just like they think when they send teachers an email, oh, it's just an email. It's not important if I misspell things or abbreviate things. Well, it is important. It's writing. It's your way of communicating. Just because the mode of delivery has changed, whether it be email or blog post, it's still, in my mind, writing that is important. It's like an essay. So I want it to be good quality writing. So keep that in mind. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about today is plagiarism. Now, as you all know, this is an online course, and with any course today, you can find everything you need on the internet. But that's not the point of what this course is. Um, the whole idea is for you to read and experience different literature. We'll talk about why some of these works have been banned or challenged in different environments, learn more about the First Amendment and things like that. So we all know that it's easy just to do a search for things on the internet and a wealth of information will pop up. That's not what I'm expecting out of you in this course, and that's not what's going to get you a passing grade in this course. So you want to make sure that you're doing your own work, but that's not saying that we don't want for you to use resources that are available to you, including the internet. But don't let the internet do the work for you. I really want for what you write, especially in your journal posts, to be your information, your analysis. I'm not interested in a research paper based on the analysis of scholars out in the field. Okay, so that's sort of the reason why I like to choose the books that I choose for this first module. When you choose your books later in Module 2 and Module 3, you'll probably pick books that have been analyzed and written about over and over and over again, thus making your challenge of doing a report or doing an analysis more difficult because it's already been done before. So my key here is just to remind you that plagiarism doesn't pay. Just as easy as it is for you to look up information, it's just as easy for me to look up the information to see that students have copied from the internet. So resist that urge. If you do borrow a few sentences here and there from a source, make sure you cite your source using MLA style. And just again, I would encourage that during your journal posts that you not use research in your journal posts. Okay, so we're going to start reading the first half. We have our first journal post. I will post later in the week, probably about Wednesday, an example of what your journal should be like. And we are finishing up the discussion number 1. I'm going to, like I said earlier, open up just a sort of a random discussion in case anybody wants to talk about Annie on my mind. And then the real discussion for Annie will start next week. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know and I will get back to you as soon as I can.